Hello there everyone, and welcome to another UXW Build product review video. I know, it seems like these are pretty much the only kind of videos I've been making as of late, but they're relatively easy to make and I actually do kind of enjoy them. Plus the most important thing by far and away is that they don't take all that long to make, at least not in most cases. Now today, I have a surprise for you. You will never guess what product it is I'm going to review and who made it. That's right, it's a big surprise. Oh, you can try, but I don't think you'll ever manage to figure out what I've got for you today. Take a moment, pause the video if you want. Okay, are you back? Here we go. Yep, the nice folks at TopTes Tools reached out to me again, asking me a couple months ago actually to review another one of their gas leak detectors. And only now, here in November of 2023, am I finally getting around to taking a look at the PT520B Plus model. As with the reviews I have done for their products in the past, this one is sponsored, but I review products only on the condition that I am allowed to be completely honest in regard to reporting my findings. So you can be assured that whether it's good, bad, indifferent, mediocre, I will do my best to tell you exactly how it is. Also, as with previous product reviews, I will be comparing this leak detector with several others, including those that were previously supplied by TopTes Tools, such as the PT520B that you're looking at right there. I believe that's the correct model number. And also from a previous review, I have the PT520A model. And then, of course, I have a couple of competitors' products. The first of these is the Klein Tools ET120 electronic leak detector. And then, of course, from the Don't Bring a Knife to a Gunfight division, we have the Inficon GasMate. All of these leak detectors will be put to the test. They will all be exposed to the same conditions, and we will see how well they happen to respond. But in the meantime, let's go back to the TopTes PT520B Plus, clear away all these other models. You may want to watch my previous reviews of the other TopTes products if you haven't done so already. So what do you get? Well, even though you don't see it right now, you get not only a carrying case of the same type that comes with the PT520A leak detector, you also get a USB cable and, of course, the leak detector itself. Why do you get a USB cable? Well, because this model has a substantial difference from all the previous TopTes products I've reviewed. This time around, there's a rechargeable lithium-ion battery inside this leak detector. The others simply used regular disposable alkaline or even carbon zinc batteries, depending on what you have available to put into them. Unfortunately, the USB cable that I received with this particular tester was defective, but that was no big deal because it's a simple micro USB cable and you probably have 10 million of those around the house. I certainly thought that I did, at least until I tried to go looking for one and couldn't actually find it. I could find every other manner of USB cable, which is the way things go because, of course, my life is a comedy. I'll go ahead and open up this review with a few things that I'd like to warn you about, some things that you need to know so that you can use a tool like this safely, because odds are, if you're using a gas leak detector, you are facing a potentially dangerous situation, and you need to make sure that the tool you have to hand is the right tool for the choice. Otherwise, you could very seriously die, and I certainly don't want that. However, I am not responsible for whatever you decide to do. The results of your actions are your responsibility and yours alone. So if you can't agree to that, go ahead and just leave right now, turn the video off, and go watch something else. I think it is entirely possible that, as with the other TopTes leak detectors, that exposure to butane gas may very well temporarily disable the sensor. You would also want to make sure when you start to use a gas leak detector such as this, that you turn it on and allow it to warm up in a location that you believe is free of any sort of concentration of explosive gas. Because if there is explosive gas present, while the detector is initializing, that will become the baseline level and you may not be able to detect the presence of explosive gas reliably. This is also not any sort of a carbon monoxide detector, nor does it detect any other combustion byproducts. This is strictly for detecting the presence of explosive gas before it is burned in some kind of an appliance. The PT520B Plus gas leak detector has a few extra features compared to the previous models that I've reviewed. First, let's go ahead and turn the leak detector on. It will perform a brief display self-test, then it will indicate the charge level of the internal battery, and now a countdown has started. This allows the explosive gas leak detector module to warm up and start functioning. There's a little tiny heating element inside the sensor that has to come up to temperature before it will actually operate. Of the additional features you get, this time around, there's not only the gas leak detector with its 2 levels of sensitivity, there's also a built-in temperature sensor, and you can also choose 2 separate measurement units for the presence of explosive gas. Now, as we look at the display right now, you'll see that in the upper left-hand corner there is a clock style symbol as well as a speaker. The clock style symbol indicates that the automatic power off is presently active. If you want to disable that, press and hold the sense button at the upper left of the button panel as you turn the power on, and continue holding it through the countdown. Then the detector will stay on until its internal battery runs out. Let's go ahead and take a look at the temperature functionality first. You get there by pressing the Celsius or Fahrenheit toggle button. It presently reports a room temperature of 23.5 degrees Celsius. Switch that over to Fahrenheit, and after a momentary delay, it tells us that's 74 or 74.1 degrees Fahrenheit. It's kind of alternating between the two. If you want to return to the gas leak detection functionality, you can hit the ppm or lower explosive limit measurement key. This switches between 2 different kinds of gas leak detection measurement: the lower explosive limit, which is the default, and the parts per million sensor setting, which can also be chosen. The speaker button over here allows you to turn off the alarm if you desire to do so. Sensitivity, of course, toggles between 2 levels of gas leak detector sensitivity. The default is high. We can also choose low. You may not be able to see that indicator in the display, but it did just change as I hit the button. There's also a button that allows you to zero the gas leak detector if you need to do so. I think it very unlikely that you would require that function. And again, it could be very dangerous if you are in an environment where you know there is the presence of an explosive gas and you choose to zero the sensor in that area. You would essentially be making the leak detector completely deaf to the baseline presence of explosive gas that's already around. Now, as far as other physical features on the leak detector, I mentioned this USB port previously. It's just your typical micro USB port. Unfortunately, it does not appear that it has any capability to exchange data with an attached computer. Whenever you plug an energized USB cable into the detector, it simply enters the charging mode and you cannot turn the power on or do anything else. Speaking of charging, there is, of course, a built-in rechargeable battery in this detector. If we flip it over and we zoom in on the back cover, you may even be able to make out the text that tells us not to open that battery cover, in which case, why is there a screw there? I don't know. It must just be there to tempt me. And I, of course, am going to give in to that temptation because I am going to open that compartment up. Now, I should warn you, there's a lithium-ion battery in there. Lithium-ion batteries have absolutely no sense of humor about mistreatment. So we'll go ahead and loosen the screw. It's not a captive screw, so you have to be careful not to lose it. We'll pry the little door up, and we don't get to see very much. There's just a featureless dark gray piece of plastic there. I will tell you that although I have not pursued this, and I have no intention of pursuing this, because I certainly don't want to wreck this detector before I've actually gotten around to testing it and evaluating it for you, and probably not afterwards either, that does pry up. But I have not tried to pursue it any further than that to see if it comes out, not only for the aforementioned reasons, not wanting to wreck the leak detector, but also because, again, lithium-ion batteries have absolutely no sense of humor about being mistreated. So what we're going to do here is simply put the cover back into place. Try to lose the screw here on this patterned bedspread. Get our magnetic screwdriver out here. You can watch me make a complete hash of this. Something simple, but you know, I'll turn it into a disaster if I at all can. There we go. Good as new. It still works. So clearly I haven't finished fixing it yet. Also, as with the previous TopTes leak detectors I have reviewed, the leak detector sensor in this model is also removable and, at least in theory, could be replaced. As you can see, I've unscrewed the top of the sensor cover, and now you're looking at the raw sensor element itself. This time around, instead of coming from Winsen Electronics, this sensor comes from Figaro. Now that's a name you probably have never heard before, at least not in the sense of leak detector elements, but they have been around for a long time, and I would imagine that it's probably easier to get the exact sensor that they used for this particular model than it is any of the Winsen sensors that were used in the previous models. Now, although both sensors do the same thing, I do not know, and I have not researched to find out if they are actually interchangeable or not. Also, although it is not the primary purpose of these leak detectors, if you are searching for a flammable refrigerant of any kind, such as isobutane, propane, or even refrigerant 32, to name but a few common examples, you can in fact use these TopTes leak detectors to do so. However, they are not designed and may not detect regular refrigerants that are considered to be non-flammable. I'm not sure how well this will actually show up on camera, but these are some of the part numbers and other information that have been written on the sensor. We'll also take a look at the sensing grill, where you can probably see the Figaro name stamped into the top of it. I will certainly research this sensor and post information about it in the video description, so please be sure to check it out. That said, let's go ahead and test for some explosive gas leaks. Can you believe it? All these gas leak detectors that you're looking at right now, they're all powered up, they're ready to do their thing. That is, except for the one from TopTes Tools, because the batteries are dead in it again. I know I've said it in the past, I haven't exactly been thrilled with this particular product, so I had to make a quick jaunt out and get some batteries for this. Isn't that absolutely crazy? Let's go ahead and throw them in there. And we'll go ahead and put the little cover back on. Find the screwdriver. Now we'll see if this thing's ready to play ball. So now everybody is definitely up and running. Let's go for our first test using this Weller Portasol butane-powered soldering iron. We'll just go ahead and set the gas flow on this to the minimum, and then I'll place it right here in front of the sensors after turning it on. The Inficon and the Klein are quick out of the gate. They're going absolutely crazy. The TopTes detectors have yet to pick anything up, though. And now the Inficon is self-zeroing. Well, let's just try moving it a little bit. I'm not actually getting anything out of the PT520B, nor the PT520A. Well, it took a little maneuvering, but eventually the 520A and the 520B Plus did start to register a substantial gas leak. But I would definitely say that the PT199, the Klein Tools, and the Inficon definitely gave the impression of being a lot more sensitive than the 520A and B+. Next up, we'll try another common source of explosive gas. First with the 520B+, then with the 520A. The PT210, it's actually a 210, not a 199. Don't get old, kids, you hear that? Because aging is all in the mind, and it's the first thing that goes. That was the Inficon, and now the Klein Tools. Well, I guess this just has to be the exception that proves the rule. This is one of those gases that has to be burned before it will register as explosive. So I've brought you all outside now and opened up the gasoline tank on my pickup truck so we can make a test for the presence of explosive gasoline vapors. We'll start out with the TopTes PT520B. This is, as with all the other sensors, in its high sensitivity mode for this and all previous and upcoming tests. We'll just go ahead and take the sensor and put it near the filler neck here. It has started to go off. I will say that the display is a little more readable on this in the sunlight than that of the 520A, where it washed out completely and could not be seen, so you had to rely entirely on its audible alarm. Speaking of the 520A, that's the next one that we'll try. It definitely alarmed faster than the B+. Now let's try the PT210. I'll actually walk around here. Never mind my shadow. It follows me everywhere I go. So the 210A alarmed pretty quickly. Then we'll get the competition here in the form of the Klein Tools. And finally, rounding things out, I probably should have said, don't bring a gun to a knife fight earlier. That's probably what I really meant. I had it inverted. When our gun comes in the form of the Inficon Gasmate. So, that's the results of the gasoline test. On to the next explosive gas. I'm going to apologize to you right now for the awkward angle at which I'm shooting this particular video. In search of a natural gas leak, I headed over to the Keykeeper's because it seems that his gas meter is especially prone to burping out a lot more natural gas through its regulator's vent than are any other gas meters I have access to. The regulator is that round disc-looking assembly you can see in the distance. It's got kind of a snout on it, and the way that it works, there's a spring-loaded disc in there that serves to regulate the pressure of natural gas down to a level that's suitable for your various gas-powered home appliances and whatnot. There's a vent on the bottom because occasionally a little bit of gas does need to be released. I can actually smell the methyl mercaptan that they use to odorize natural gas so that you know when there might be a leak about. So I'm hoping that with a little bit of luck we can test all these leak detectors out and see how they perform. I'll go ahead and start with the PT520B Plus. Those sensors that have a gooseneck, which happens to be the majority of them, are definitely going to be in an advantage here. And we'll just see if we get anything. I'm not registering anything just yet, but the whiff of natural gas that I picked up earlier seems to have vanished now. Certainly doesn't help that the wind just funnels through here. Don't imagine it's coming from anywhere else on this meter, but we'll just make a cursory check. So my natural gas test may not work. Alright, let's get another detector here. Get the other model from TopTes. No, I'm not registering anything there either. Here's where I'm probably going to fall down on camera. Then I'll have to submit the video I got to America's Funniest Home Fatalities. I'm not getting anything off of the PT520B either. So we'll try our competing brands. Those being the Inficon and the Klein Tools. We got a hit there. It's not really a place we want to have a hit, though. Now that we know one of them was willing to sense something, let's go back. Try again. Oh yeah, I'm definitely getting a whiff of it now. Where's it coming from? Nothing there. Klein Tools out. Okay, the Klein Tools doesn't like that pipe joint either. So the question is now, with the Inficon and the Klein having detected something, will any of the TopTes entrants pick something up? The answer so far seems to be no. This is the 520A. Nothing. Try the B+. I apologize for this segment's length, but I think it's the right thing to do to leave this in the video. I can definitely smell natural gas somewhere here. And two of my leak detectors, the two highest priced ones of course, have picked up on it. But I'm sorry to say that the TopTes models, at least two of which I recommended in previous reviews, are not giving a very good account of themselves right now. Don't get me wrong, I'm not about to say that they do not have their utility. But clearly when you are chasing a minute leak, it pays to have the better detector from what I'm seeing right now. During the course of this review, I thought that it might be interesting to test something that I haven't tried previously. What you're looking at right now is a bottle of isopropyl alcohol. Unfortunately, it's not the higher percentage, particularly good version of Fool's vodka, but it's all I could find around the house, so it'll just have to do. It'll be interesting to see if the vapors that emerge from this are detected as flammable, because it is most definitely a flammable liquid, even when it's only 50% concentration. So let's go ahead and start out with the PT520A. And it definitely flagged up as there being flammable vapor present. Now let's try the 520B plus. It's registering just the tiniest amount, and certainly not alarming. And as I'm testing this, I realize that it would have been advantageous, since there is a measurement display on this model, for it to have a hold button. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Now we'll try the PT210. Followed by the TopTes Tools, which is definitely going off. And then, of course, finally, the 800-pound gorilla in the room, the Inficon Gasmate. So to varying degrees, all of the leak detectors did respond to the vapors from the isopropyl alcohol. The gas that I'll be testing for now is acetylene, by way of my little air acetylene whistler style torch. I have to figure out a good place to put the torch head here, but once I've got that, I'll go ahead and just crack it open, and we'll see who responds first. Well, the PT210, the Inficon, and the Klein are all going to it, as is the PT520A. I had to bring the acetylene torch head up close to the PT520B before it would actually start to alarm. And now for the final explosive gas test that I'll be performing. This is propane. So we have all the testers out here, the TopTes Tools, the Inficon, both the TopTes models, well, all three of the TopTes models, I guess I should say. So hopefully I'll be fast enough when I turn the stove knob on here that it doesn't automatically light. Well, darn near everybody went off at the same time then. So I better turn that off before we get enough gas in here to potentially cause a problem. That's another thing I'll admit that I do not know. I don't know if it's possible to poison these explosive gas sensors. Maybe that's the mechanism of how they wear out over time. I don't know. The batteries in this one are definitely done, which is why it's shut off. Now only the two TopTes models and the Klein are still beeping. Everybody else is reset or shut off in that case. I don't know how long it'll take the remainder of the testers to settle down, but thus concludes the last test that I had in mind to run. So now it's time to talk about my final set of findings. At this point, it's probably well past time to go ahead and get this video wrapped up. Even by my standards, it's probably gone on a little bit too long. I don't know, because as I'm shooting this particular segment, I haven't actually checked to see how long the rest of it is, nor have I started editing it. Do I recommend the TopTes PT520B Plus? I don't really think that I do. The other TopTes leak detectors that I have tested definitely performed better. Though if you watched the portion of this video where I was searching for a natural gas leak over at my brother's house, you probably noticed that the much bigger name brand detectors that also happen to cost a lot more were much more sensitive and did a better job. That's not to say that I am rescinding my recommendation of the other TopTes branded detectors, or that I don't happen to think they are a good product. It just reinforces a strong belief of mine that when you do something on a professional basis, you should buy the best tool that you can afford. I was just not as impressed with this most recent leak detector they sent me. Now there is a caveat here. I only have a sample size of 1 unit, and I don't have any reason to believe that this example was cherry-picked, especially as I mentioned previously with the included USB charging cable having been bad. TopTes will see this video before you do, and if they actually watch out to this point, it's possible they might offer me another one of these testers as a part of my review, and if they do that and I decide to take them up on it, I will certainly post in the video description and tell you if anything happens to change. So please watch that space in the near future. Obviously, if you're watching this video and it's been a long time since it was uploaded, then the most current information will already be down there. In any event, folks, for those of you who have stuck it out to this point, I certainly want to thank you for taking the time to watch. I hope that this video was useful to you, and as always, I look forward to hearing your constructive comments. You hear of people doing unusual things in church. This is one of them.
It's all in the name of science, right? Just don't burn your meters or your testers up.
Yeah, I really hope not to. Okay, here we go. Take one, hopefully of one. And now for the final explosive gas test that I'll be performing. This is propane. So we have all the testers out here, the Klein Tools, the Inficon, both the TopTes models, well, all 3 of the TopTes models, I guess I should say. So hopefully I'll be fast enough when I turn the stove knob on here that it doesn't automatically light. Well, darn near everybody went off at the same time then. So I better turn that off before we get enough gas in here to potentially cause a problem. That's another thing I'll admit that I do not know. I don't know if it's possible to poison these explosive gas sensors. Maybe that's the mechanism, how they wear out over time. I don't know. The batteries in this one are definitely done, which is why it's shut off. Now only the 2 TopTes models and the Klein are still beeping. Everybody else is reset or shut off in that case. I don't know how long it'll take the remainder of the testers to settle down. But thus concludes the last test that I had in mind to run. So now it's time to talk about my final set of findings.